I noticed the question said talking with some reference to the downside of being moist, and I have visited other cities. I have some difficulty coming to grips with the downside of being moist. This is not the being moist does not allow for bars where people go strictly for drinks and entertainment. A friend of mine said the other day, it's barbaric to have a nice dinner without a glass of wine. And I find that there may be some truth in that. As long as we have been a people in the world, we have consumed distilled and fermented spirits. We haven't always been smart enough to consume them in proper quantities, but we enjoyed it until we did exceed our limit, I suppose. A moist vote is not a vote for wholesale consumption of alcohol on every street corner. It's an opportunity to go and in a hopefully civilized manner have a drink with your dinner. And I say again, I have difficulty finding the downside of that.
Well, this is a local issue that the voters of Campbellsville will have to decide. But personally, I do live in the Campbellsville city limits, so I'm going to vote no. And the reason why is I actually do agree with a lot of the points that the proponents of this have made about economic development. But I fear that we're just not ready for this yet. We know that there are some social ills that follow alcohol when it's introduced in an area. And then part of the argument for becoming moist is economic development. Well, Marion County has been wet for decades, but I don't see any Olive Gardens or Macaroni Grills or Charlie's there. And that's the whole point, at least we've been hearing, is we're going to get these great restaurants if we bring it in. I also wonder if this doesn't work, and bring in more industry and better restaurants, I'd like to know what the proponents of this, what the next step is for them. Is it bars? I just question where this is taking us. So in summary, I'm going to vote no for the reasons that I've mentioned, but it is a local decision that the voters of Campbellsville will have to decide.
Myself, like Mr. Montgomery, I live in the county area, so I won't have a vote on the issue, but if I did, my vote would be no. I've gone back and forth. I teach a global issues class, and this is obviously one of the big topics because the students really like to talk about this issue. They want to get some good restaurants. Research, it depends on what cities you look at. Elizabethtown seems to benefit somewhat with the wet vote, but however, I would argue that Elizabethtown's area right on I-65 and all that had going for them, that they were going to benefit anyway. So it's really hard to tell how wet had an impact on that. Burnside, many of you in this area know, they recently went wet, and that research has yet to prove that that's helped them economically. I'm all for anything that can help us economically, but, my vote would be no. Again, however, I can live with it either way because I have made this promise to the MAD representation, and I'll be sticking to tomorrow. I cannot tolerate DUIs. And I have promised them, the state representative, I would vote for the toughest legislation that ever come across the desk. And if that wasn't tough enough, then I would propose the bill to make it tough enough. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I really think we've had some really good exchange, good answers to the questions. And a lot of them are very thoughtful, and we appreciate that. I think we all probably learned from them, and I think we learned to know each of you a little better. We haven't through yet. That does complete the questions. Now we're going to do the closing statements, or if you wish, you can call them opening statements. And each candidate has 3 minutes to make a closing statement, and there will be time as they've been through all their answers. And we will start with Mr. Montgomery.
I'd like to, as I said, I'd like to address that National Guard issue about should the troops be deployed. I've had a grandson over in Iraq for 2.5 years. Blown up by a roadside bomb, received medals for bravery, and they're not getting enough volunteers. They're not getting enough volunteers for the regular Army and the Marines to back them up. They need all the backup they can get. Those boys are over there. The day my grandson was wounded, the first statement he made to his wife was, "I'm alive." So that's all they're trying to do is stay alive. We need all the support we can get to keep these boys over there. What I would like to finish with here today, I spent 38 years running an operation in Campbellsville. I've had the experience. I am still treasurer of the Kentucky Beverage Association in Frankfort. I go back and forth to Frankfort during the period of the legislative session, trying to get bills passed, bills defeated that would be detrimental to business. I worked on workman's comp bills, I worked on bottle bills, I worked on tax bills. And next week, a group of us are going to Washington. We go to Washington once a year and call on the Kentucky delegation about national bills that affect us. And these calls have been very, very good for you as citizens, because some of the bills they propose would cause you to have to pay a whole lot more for beverages than you have to pay today. So I feel like I am very qualified to do this job. I know a lot of people in Frankfort. I had a call from the governor's office last week from a friend of mine who was a classmate of my daughter's. Asked me when I was going to be in Frankfort again. Wanted me to come by the governor's office and want to talk to me about a few things. Jody Richards and I, in the house, he and I grew up together, grew up on Burton Ridge up here, next door to my wife. So I know these people, I know how the system works. I think I can do a good job as your representative. I have the time, I can be a full-time representative. I don't have to, I don't have a job that I have to worry about. I can go anytime it's needed to be. The only job I have is I'm the treasurer of our church. I go down to the church 3 or 4 days a week, sign checks, and that's about the size of it. But if you want somebody that's honest, somebody that understands the system, that adds a common sense approach to anything that comes up, I'm your person to elect. Thank you. And I'd like to thank the group for inviting us here tonight that we might share our answers.
Mr. Gomes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Burns, and thank you, students, and thank you, Lindsey College, for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here. I won't say it's been fun, but it's been nice. I would appeal to you to vote for me for your state representative. I'm confident I can serve you well. I'm in my 4th year on the Campbellsville City Council, which is, of course, the city legislative body, so I have that experience going for me. I worked 35 years for the federal government, so I too know what it's like to make the calls to get the agency to do what it's supposed to do. And I know how they react when they receive a call from a caring representative of the people. I have raised my children in this area, and I've grown to love it. It's a beautiful area that has a wealth of resources, natural, those humans that are part of that beautiful natural landscape. I want to represent you in Frankfort. I think I can do you well.